Good evening and welcome to Imprinting Color. My name is Liz, aka Pezliz, and I am here with a very special guest. And this guest is here because they have created a sensation in the maker world, and that is the one and only K2 Kevin. One of the originator of the MakerChip. So, Kevin, welcome in. And let's talk about how
Fancy
this
seeing
happened.
you here, Liz.
Wow, on my own show. It's like the Pezliz
Yeah.
show. It's not the Liz Pez show.
No.
All right,
yes, I'm K2 Kevin, and the MakerChip was an idea that I had before Rocky Mountain. And I simply wanted to bring a bunch of things to Rocky Mountain, and I had kind of like maker coins that I've done. I have these K2 clip lays with a little coin thing and a QR code, but I wanted something smaller. And I'm sitting there at my desk and I looked and I had a poker chip, and I have a habit of saving poker chips when I go to like a casino on vacation, whatever. I always save a poker chip, and I'm like, this is it. I want to make a maker coin, but like a poker chip, and keep it that size and just make a bunch of them. And then we were in a Discord call, and Joe Mike Makes was in there, and we were talking, and he loved it. And I'm like, then I know we're on to something, and he was just like right on board. Let's do this. And he's making one and all this kind of thing.
Measuring poker chips, weighing filaments.
Yeah. And I looked up the specs for poker chips, but I like even numbers. So I went with a 40 millimeter, not 39 or whatever. We're not going to reach the weight of a poker chip because it's not, made out of, what is a poker chip? Porcelain? No, something like that.
Something.
Something, whatever. And, just something more standardized so we could have fun. Clay, yes, clay. But I thought it was like not porcelain, but ceramic. Yeah, ceramic, whatever.
Yeah.
But I wanted something more standardized, like a size. And I started making mine and a bunch of different decorations so I could release it like a little DIY, make your own maker coin type thing.
Yeah. And so for Rocky Mountain Rep Festival, you did a couple sample designs, and as you do at events, you kind of handed them out to people so they could have their own little souvenir of the event. I know you did one for Steve Builds, for Repcord.
Steve Builds there, yep. Pooch for sure.
For
KB3D.
For KB3D.
I did a lot of them, right? So I did a lot of them, and then
and Joe Mike did this one for Rocky Mountain. Yes, Positron.
Yeah, so
I made
bunch, and it was fun.
My own. Yeah.
And of course, you did some.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of fun, and maybe I'm weird, but I like poker chips, and I think poker chips are cool just by themselves. And why not maker chips? So that's kind of how it started. And it's to me, it's not that special. I'm really glad that a lot of people like it and we're able to do it, and gives them an opportunity to design their own thing and hand out things. And I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible. So the reason why we're doing this is because I answer a lot of questions. Like every day I get DMs for questions, and these are a lot of questions that I've already kind of gone over. Some are a little beyond the scope of a little DM message. Like I can't teach you how to use Illustrator, but I will teach you, maybe we can show you a couple things you can do that is free on the web to convert maybe your logo to something you can use.
Absolutely.
And just get started. And you will learn that it's not that difficult. And I'm doing it in Bamboo Studio. And that technology and face down printing and multicolor printing kind of enables this process to happen very easily.
So you have a flat print.
And I've been doing posters, right?
Yeah.
And Danny Wazzy, he's like a coaster aficionado. We all do face down coasters now and things like that. Yeah. So this is not much different than that. It's the same process, just like Pete at Polymaker does all the light boxes face down. He's got his process. And we all may have a different process for making a maker chip. Not everybody has to do it the same. As long as the end result works.
You've laid the foundation. You've laid the foundation for people to work with it. And
I haven't been doing this that long. I don't think any of us have. So there is no right or wrong way to do it. You know, there might be some that are better for me and someone else does it differently. That's okay too. You know,
but we will say that there is like for the various this is like Built Over Bots chip collector for this, and also for things like the MakerChip matrix. There is a standard, and there are reasons for the standard. So do we want to start off with talking about the standard and then
I mean,
from there?
We kind of made the standard similar to a poker chip, and it is 40 millimeters in diameter. And I started at 3.5 millimeters in thickness and realized we don't need to have it that thick. If we can get away with shaving minutes or hours off of prints, and why not just go with a flat 3? There was an issue with an upload I did on Thangs where it kept the 3.5 for many months, even though I upgraded it to the 3 like hours later.
If you were an OG downloader, you might want to check the files if you're going to start from scratch.
Printables and Thangs and MakerWorld all should have the latest, and it's kind of a 9 set, and I'm just trying to trim it down to make it easier for me to manage, and I can add more decorations. And if people have other decorations they want to add to my list, I can do that. But what I'm also doing is if you post your maker chip somewhere, maybe let me know, because I'm adding it to a collection.
Yes.
Like I have a collection and everything that's there is all the maker chips I've found. I have not added all the ones that I've done and put those online yet. And I'm not sure how creators feel about their maker chip being online. So I kind of don't want to do that. I can give it to them, and if they want to do it, they can, you know? That's where we're kind of at.
Yeah, so we're going to get started. And if anyone wants to follow along, there will be a link in the description below. But I will also put the link here in chat from MakerWorld. But if you want, you can also find Kevin on Printables and on Thangs. And you can follow along if you want to build your own. And as mentioned, for anyone that's watching us live, if you have very particular questions, then we can save that to the end. If you have an immediate question related to what Kevin is instructing, then I will see about interjecting with a question. All right.
Oh, I would love all the questions while I'm doing it, if you can.
Yes.
That would be great, because like right at those steps, it would be good to help others too. Because I bet you everybody's going to have a lot of these questions, you know?
All right. So I will say that I designed my own new chip from scratch yesterday, and I did make a mistake. I ended up doing my where are these? Now I can't find it. I did my QR code a little bit wonky, so I'm gonna have to. I had to start from scratch again. So nobody's perfect. It is possible to make mistakes, and absolutely, have fun, but have fun with it. Remember, at the end of the day, this is, for most of us, it's a hobby, and don't stress about things. There's always people that are willing to help out, but the purpose of this video is to help you as much as possible. All right, so Kevin, I'm going to hand things over to you, and I will work with managing the questions and all of those things. So
Great.
You are now the main event.
I am the main event. Well, at least this screen is.
All right.
So normally what I feel like we should go through is starting with a logo, your logo. If anyone's designed their own logo in Photoshop, GIMP, whatever they're using, Paint, whatever they have their own little logo in, we want to remove the background. So I'm going to start, and I use Photoshop, but this is not unlike what you're using. You're using Canva, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, Liz?
I use Canva. Yes.
Yeah, and in Canva, you can remove the background. So today we're going to do a Moco Made. They just had an amazing charity drive, and let's make them a MakerChip. Why not? I've known them for over 2.5, 3 years now. So I need to remove the background because obviously we have a white background here. And normally what I would do is bring this straight into Illustrator. But Illustrator is not something that everyone knows, has, and it's a pain to learn. There's a learning curve there. But usually any image programs nowadays have a simple button like this does to remove the background, or it'll have something close to it in Canva where you can click on different elements of the background. So here I'm just going to remove the background. So I'm actually going to go around in this and, oh, I'm on the wrong layer. And we're going to remove all the background parts. And when you see that checkerboard, you know that's a transparent background. So we have no background and we just have their logo there. And then what I'm going to do is save this. So let me go ahead and save this off. And now that I have a saved PNG file with transparent background, what we can do is open up simple tools. Now you could bring this into Illustrator. There's quite a few programs. We talked about a few in Discord as well that are also free. And there's Inkscape is another one. But you just want to turn this into a vector or an SVG file that you can then import into your slicer or import it into Tinkercad or Fusion or whatever you're using. And that way you can size it nicely to fit on a MakerChip. But for now, I'm going to try this. We're going to do PNG. We're going to convert a PNG to SVG format. And this is just an online convert.com. So online converter of a bunch of different types of files. And all I have to do is drag my original file, this PNG, drop it here, and it's going to start doing its thing. I leave all the settings default, although this setting down here, the set speckles, I think it defaults to 8, but sometimes you want to set that so it's a cleaner looking image. And I hit start. So whatever you're using to remove the background, that's one image kind of program. And now we just converted it to an SVG file right here that we can work in Tinkercad or any of your CAD or even in the slicer. So I'm going to download that file, and that's been downloaded. Now what I'm going to do is bring that file into Tinkercad, and I'm probably moving too fast. Am I moving too fast? I have a habit of doing that. Is Liz still here? Hello? I don't hear Liz.
You're doing great.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, so as long as I'm not going too fast, because I hear that a lot, that I'm just moving too fast, and I'll try to slow it down. And if people have questions, let me know, and I can kind of slow it down there, or we can do Q&A after the fact. But right now, all we've done is taken like your logo, and we've removed the background, made a transparent background logo, and converted it to an SVG. And here I can import that SVG. And we're going to import that, and I'm going to leave it the size it says it is. So you can see that is not going to fit on a MakerChip. So what I do is I click on it, and again, I'm not giving lessons in Tinkercad right now, but when you click on, your file in Tinkercad, if you hold the Shift key and grab a corner, then you're scaling it. And I'm scaling it down. And then if we look here, I brought in kind of the sample disc that's on a MakerChip and a decoration. So I can kind of see the size I need. I already know it's about 26, 28 millimeters, but this can help you size to what you would want to begin with. You can also do this in the slicer. So let's shrink this down, and I'm looking at it here. Another little trick in Tinkercad, even though you're scaling, you just raise it up. It doesn't matter. We'll go down to the normal height after the fact. But I'm just going to scale it so it fits. And then I will use an alignment tool to kind of center it. and then take a look at it. And that's about how the size I want to fit on the center of a MakerChip. So again, we took their logo, we removed the background, converted it to an SVG, and now I'm just sizing it to fit in a circle. So in the exact size circle of these. Now these decorations, this is all a part of the original download. If you download just the STLs, you can get these. So I made them available as STLs. I also made the project files available for Bamboo Studio, which you are going to see in a second once we move over to that. The height is very important when you're adding your logo onto these chips. The logo as well as your QR code. You don't have to have this as thick as the chip. It doesn't have to be 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, or anything like that. You only need a few layers of it. So we're going to change the layer height, or the height of this model, to 0.8. That's my default. Other people can do 0.6. 0.8 I like because there's enough layers there to block out whatever colors are behind it. And it's just, you know, my preferred thickness there. You can even go down to like 0.1, just one, you know, 0.1 layer. So if you're doing it on like a 0.2 nozzle or a 0.4 nozzle, you know, you can do the math. You only have like a half a layer, a few layers, and you're done. So it's less color swaps, faster prints, things like that.
But you have optimized this so you do not have to have a 0.2 nozzle. This is optimized for
Yes.
a regular 0.4 nozzle.
That is correct. So like the profile that we're going to be using, and also Austin, you know, he's the king of the zombie tuned profiles. We've been tuning this thing for a few months off and on. I've been messing with it. He's been printing chips. We've been tuning different things to see what works best. So that's been great and a lot of help, a lot of help to tune it in. And another important thing. So I'm looking at this and it's just right side out. You know, I can even color it to the color that they normally use, which is black. It's a good idea to flip it first. You can do it here or you can do it in your slicer. I like to do it here. And I don't think, did I mute my cough? So I like to do it in here first. So when I'm exporting this, it's already flipped for me because this is going to be a face down print. So this is the circle that goes on top, and we're looking at this thing from underneath. That's how it's going to print. Good morning, all. Papa Bear, I see you in chat. Hey, Royal Nomi. All right, so we are going to export this. This is the Moco Made logo. So let me get an export on here. We just exported that as an STL. And now it's time to move straight to the slicer. So if you see the slicer now, we're looking at Bamboo Studio. These are the profiles that I'm including on all of the downloads. So you'll see a 3MF file. That's a Bamboo Studio profile file that includes filament profiles, because we've tuned the filament to best give you a good top layer as well as a first layer. We've tried to tune the entire profile. If you're going to use your own profile, that's cool too. You know, totally do that. There's one setting in the quality setting down here. Only one wall on the first layer. Is that showing up? Yes. That's an important one for me because I like a really detailed first layer, and the one wall really makes that first layer pop. Like it contains colors and makes a very precise line for text and things like that. After the first layer, you're good to go with, you know, like this one here is two wall loops, so 2 walls. But here we're gonna contain it with one wall on the first layer only. That makes really sharp. And then also 100%, some people do 90. I think me and Austin had a little back and forth about, do we want 95, 98, or 100? I just like 100%. Let's make it easy. It's heavier, and it's not about strength. It's just about the weight and the speed. You change this to 30% and then any other infill, it's generally slower than 100% infill with rectilinear. So at this point, let's start where everybody else would start. and that would be downloading the profile, right? So I'm going to grab my normal downloaded profile. You were going to say something, Liz?
Yeah, one of the secrets is if you download from Maker World, for example, if you have a bamboo, the profile is already there. And so all
That's
those
right.
settings that Kevin is talking about right now are settings that are in the profile.
Yeah, and these are in Bamboo Studio. Now you can also use Orca Slicer for this. And I know there has been people using Prusa Slicer, but they've had some issues, haven't they? Like color selections not saving within their project files and things like that. I have not used Prusa Slicer in a while now, so I'm not sure what they're capable of right now, but I think they're going to catch up again, you know. But I know in Orca and Bamboo Studio, the reason I use Bamboo Studio is simply because then I can upload my project right to Bamboo. They won't reject it. If it was Orca, sometimes they'll reject it. I think they always reject it, but maybe that's changed. I don't know. But here's a tuned profile. I'll just bring this in. Let me just make sure. Yeah, okay, it's still the same here. So this is what you get when you get like the sample of 9 different like samples or decorations, the 9 styles. You get just the decoration, which I'm basically calling this outside. Oh, I better not look at that yet. The outside ring is like the decoration. Then you get the solid circle in the middle. And the decoration overlaps that circle, and I will show you how that works. It's very similar to like Photoshop or any other design program where you have layers on top of layers. We're just doing it in reverse. And then this funky appearance, I think it's called like Z fighting, right? I think they call it Z fighting. It's just weird. It would be nice if they could fix that, so we don't have to see it this way, and it would be a clearer image for us to move things when it's upside down. But either way, if I slice, we can at least get a look of what all these 9 chips are going to look like. And you can change the colors of everything. So I know these aren't the best looking colors, but you'll be able to change the colors of all that. And your logo is going to fit in the middle, along with a QR code on the other side in the middle. So pick which chip you want. What do you think would be good for Made? Do you think these circle ones? You like the dots, don't you? If you notice, some of these chips, I think
circles would be cool. The circles, or even the standard.
Well, you know, I don't know what a standard is. I mean, this is the one I use up here.
Yeah,
and the reason I use it, I like it too. The reason I use it is because it's a big, wide circle. This one, you have a smaller area to work with. This gear, you have a smaller area. This is even smaller. This one, obviously smaller. This one is probably the largest, you know, it's just wide open for whatever you want to do. I made 2 gears, one more trim. So a little trim gear. So then you could fit a little more, and then more knobby gear. But pick the one you want. Let's just start with one now. So you wanted the circle, which I think will fit good with Made. So an easy way to do it is just select and delete. Or if you want to select, you know, a bunch, you hold shift and mouse over, and you can like delete it like that. Or I can select them all and just unselect the one I want. But I just wanted to show you here. And then I hit center or arrange, and it automatically centers here. But if you're worried about that, you can right click and then see if you can center it. So you want to start off at least your first chip right here, and we can duplicate it and make as many as we want on the plate. Once we're done with one, you can clone it. But you can see we have a blank chip, and now we're going to bring in the logo, and I'm going to switch to the object view in Bamboo Studio. And the object view right now consists of the chip and the decoration, which is the circle. So I have the chip, which is the black chip, and then the decor or the decoration is the circle around it, and that's combined as a single object. When I bring in this Made SVG file, look at that size. So we're going to scale it in here as well. I think let's see, did I not save it? No, it's in the other folder. Sorry. Let's do this one. There we go. So here we have the MakerChip file that we're working with. I already flipped it over, and that's because we're going to put it in the middle.
So to flip it over, what did you do to flip it over?
Oh, okay. So I flipped it over in Tinkercad previously.
Okay.
That was like my last step in Tinkercad before I exported it. I flipped it, so I don't have to do it in here. But if you didn't flip it, let's say we have it going the other way. There, that's their file, that's their logo. Oh. So if it's face up like that, and I did not flip it, then you click on it, and up here there's a tool here to lay it on its face. That's basically flipping it over. So if I hit lay on face, then you can see it highlights this side, and if I click it, it'll flip it. You could even do it more manually. Here's a rotation. So we can go and take it, and we can literally just rotate it like that if we want. But you can work in the, yeah, it is. But you can work in the slicer and get it right. You know, however you want to move things around. What I like to do then is I like to color it, whatever color I'm going to stick with, or at least a contrasting color with whatever the center is. So right here we have black. If I look at my filament colors, we have white, orange, yellow, and black. I'm not going to use any of these colors, am I? I mean, maybe I could do, I mean, they're really black and white. So if I wanted to make my life simpler and not see colors, we can delete the colors that we're seeing there, or just leave them and just know which colors we're using. This white on the black would look good, or let's say I wanted to change that, change the center, the center here, instead of black, I want that to be white. And then I want the decoration to be black. And then I want this logo, if we right click, or if you see over here, there's the colors. I have a habit of right clicking everything, but here you have the color. So I set the color of this chip now, this logo, to black. And now the important part is right click and hit center. So it did not disappear. It is actually below. So you can kind of see it bleeding through with the Z fighting. And then what we do is with this selected here, that's the actual logo. I select the assembly. So I'm selecting this group, and I'm going to add this to the group. They call it merge on this version. Other versions, it was called assemble. I don't know. They have different names, but it's always right here. Right click, merge it. And now I made this chip now into one piece. And we can see it. It's still Z fighting, but watch what happens when we go ahead and slice it. Now that I merged it. Now we have a face down MakerChip logo, right? Without a QR code. Is that making sense, Liz?
Sounds good. How's everybody in chat doing?
Do I not have any questions other than Zombie asking me, does it need to be black?
Oh, he likes color.
Yes, okay. It does not need to be black. And let's say we want to change the decoration. And I have a feeling, so I clicked on the color. We're going to just change a color. He's like really into his dark blues, right? And purples. So let's say we're going to change this decoration, the circles around the outside, and we'll just change that to blue. Give MakerChip a little color in their life. Or if you'd rather, we can change that to yellow. I think everybody's pretty familiar with how to change colors, but we're doing it by object. We're not painting. You could paint if you wanted to get funky and you wanted to put a funky line or do some painting or select objects that are hard to do otherwise. You could get in there and paint. But this is done with objects. So you're just selecting a color and you're done. And you know, what's going to happen with this, if we look at the layers that's printing, let's start at the first layer. You'll see it's going to print 3 colors on the first layer. We got the blue, the white, and the black. And as we go through these layers, we know we only went 0.8 thickness. Oh, sorry. So if I go, I'm at 0.4, I go up another one, we're at 0.6. Now we're at 0.8. I should see the MocoMade logo disappear now because we're going to go
Zombie
beyond
says,
0.8, and there it is.
How would you need to paint it if you needed to?
How would you need to paint it if you needed to? Well, I mean, I can show you how to paint if that's what you're asking. So on the Prepare tab here, we select the object, and let's say we wanted to paint this inside circle. There's a paint can up here. So now we've gone into color painting mode. I will choose a color, and let's see if the fill works just for the center circle. Sure does. So if I wanted to change just the center, oh, that's right, because it's the whole object. Hold on, let's try this again. Let's see. Let's see if we can change. Is it gonna let me do this? I don't know if it will. It should, shouldn't it? Let's see. No. No. Yeah, because it's the object, it's not gonna let me do it. So I could do it like with a brush and fill it. But because it only sees this object, I don't think it's letting me fill the edges. No, look at that. Well, that's why you don't want to paint. How about that? So we can go and paint like with a circle, and we can paint in colors. Or if we wanted to put like, you know, some more organic shapes, things like that, you can do painting. That's gonna up the time for sure. Do it prior to merging. Ooh, good call. But I think it'll still do even, yeah, see, it's gonna still do the whole object, won't it? Because there won't be a center. If I just wanted to do this center, you couldn't do it. I did include something that's also another object, which is a center circle. So that's part of, I think, one of the other designs, but it's also part of the STL. So you have the big circle, the 40 millimeter kind of base circle, the main circle. I also made a smaller one that you can scale to fit in the inside. So the outside could be a different color than the inside. So that's an option too. I kind of included that. And I think it is just called like decoration inside circle. So yeah, you don't want to paint unless you're doing organic, right? How about that? Let's stick with that. But what are we missing? Except for Interdisk and the rings. Oh yeah, the QR code. So it looks really bare. So we would have one MocoMade, we want to put a QR code on the top. For QR codes, I mean, there's a lot of talk about QR codes. And basically you want one that is a non-dynamic, non-tracking QR code that you don't have to pay for. And if you are paying, some people are using Adobe, what is it called, to make QR codes, like Adobe Code, Adobe QR, whatever it is. I found a really nice free one, and I've used it for a long time now, and none of them expire. So that's a huge plus. Let me pull that up and show you that. This is Gen QR code. It's really simple, and it lets you export as an STL. So you'll notice here's a dynamic QR code. This is the one you'd have to have an account for, and they track all the hits to the QR code. Depending on where you're sending people, you can have them sent to like your link tree, and that tracks statistics anyway. Your website can track statistics. I mean, a lot of things will. You were saying?
So Karen Chow asked a question. You have the assembly selected. Can you expand that to select an object or a part? Maybe we'll answer that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. You can break it back into parts. So you can do that. And if you select just the part to paint, that would still be that whole circle. It wouldn't detect the center that I was trying to color because it was the entire circle it kept wanting to paint. I heard that too, TechJeeper. All right, so for MocoMade, where are we gonna go for MocoMade? Twitch? Something like that. Let's just do that.
They do have a website, but yeah,
I know.
Let's just do Twitch. Twitch is probably easiest.
Yeah, I don't want to do any searches or anything. Let's just say that's the URL we're going to work with. You want to keep the URL, no HTTPS, nothing in front of it, nothing behind it. Trim it as much as you can. You could use a URL like tiny URL or some other shortener that will not expire on you. Make sure if you're going to use any of those shorteners or what have you, they do not expire or don't start charging you money, because you want your QR code to work for at least, a few years. How long do you want it to work, Who knows how long, any of those will work. This one should work forever, right? It's using standard QR code, styling, and it's non-dynamic. So once it's done, it should just work.
We're going to generate Twitch.tv, Twitch.tv, not Twitch.com.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Ooh, see, that saved us a letter.
Design.
You're pro. There, look at it. It got even simpler looking. So that's a really easy QR code design to print. In general, you don't see a ton of little bits. It would be nice if it was even shorter and easier to, print and scan, but that one's not bad. So once you have it, you hit generate, and then let's go and we're going to export it here as an STL. So when you hit the STL, the image size, we're going to fit this on a 40 millimeter diameter little circle. I know the centers of these are mostly like 26 millimeter. So we're going to say the size will be 26. And then the QR code height, I'm going to keep with the 0.8, especially on the QR code. Yes, and you should always check double scanning. That is correct. So if you want to scan that QR code, tell me where it goes. It should go good. Let me change that URL real quick, and then I'll let you scan it. And you do it without a base because you don't need a background. So we're going to go ahead and download that STL. So now we have a QR code. And let me close the browser when we're back to the slicer. And I am going to go, we already have this as an STL. So we can bring this straight into the slicer and drop it there. And let's see, let me get a little closer. And there's your QR code. Now, if I'm going to stick with white as this background of this chip, the last thing you want is this to be white or anything light. QR codes, and a lot of you already know this, you want to have heavy, high contrast. So as high contrast as you can. You could still do it in, let's say, pink, and it will probably work 99% of the time, maybe not. But I like super high contrast, so I would do the dark color that you have, whatever dark color you're using, use that. So here we have black, or we can do the blue. I'm going to choose the black. And now to put it up here, I've given demonstrations of this before where I literally took this thing and lifted it to level. But really the best way to do this is flip this over. So we'll use the same lay on face magic. Click there, and now we have Moco made on the top. And now we're just going to take the QR code and we're going to center it. And then I can tell it's not centered, it's peaking. So that means I move this guy. So let's go ahead and right click on the entire object, which is the coin currently, and center that. And then flip it over and take a look. That looks pretty good. And there's a lot of room here. And we really don't need that much room. The bigger the QR code can be, the better, probably more successful you're going to have at scanning it. So let's go to our QR code in the object, which is right here. And I'm just going to scale it in the slicer. You'll notice here, the Z height is 0.8. So we're going to watch that as I go and I scale this thing just a little bit and look at it. That's not too bad. But if I look, I want this back to 0.8. So I uncheck uniform scale, make sure that's unchecked. And then we're just changing that to 0.8. Hit enter, return. And we are golden. Now that it's centered and it's where I want it, I again select the QR code here in the object pane. And then I also select assembly. I'm on a Mac, so it's kind of command, but I believe that's control on Windows computer. Am I right? I'm pretty sure. Go ahead and assemble, right click and merge that together. And now this QR code is a part of your chip. And I always slice it just to look at it, make sure that looks clean. And it does. And that certainly does as well. Go back to the prepare and we can flip it back over because we want to do face down. I really like the face down logo rather than a QR code face down. If anything should look good, it should be your logo. You know, the QR code will be there, and if it, you know, if it's a little rough, as long as it scans, you're golden. Yes, polymorph, that's kind of what I just said, right? The color, high contrast, black on white, white on black works really well. I've done them in blue, like a dark blue. Yeah, and I've done them in any high contrasting colors is perfect.
And you want to be careful with dual color filaments, and also filaments that may give off, like filaments with lots of glitter, or filaments like even some silks. They might not show up as bold. I've made lots of mistakes with my QR code for sure. And yeah, just be aware of that.
The shades of gray, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, there's been, so the decoration and the outside, or even your circle, I've done them in silks, I've done them in all different colors, but the QR code, it's usually always like a white on a black. A lot of my chips are black in the center. I have done some colors or darker inserts, or even a lighter color, like a light gray, and I did a black QR code. Just make sure it's contrasty. You don't have to print a dozen of them to test. Print one off and make sure that you can test, you know, the QR code and it works. You know, obviously we can test it on the screen to make sure it goes to the right place. Do a print. Now the profile has been a lot of changes to the profile here, as well as the PLA profiles that we made here. There's been changes, so this top layer is getting smoother and smoother every time that we've kind of worked on doing this profile. Zombie's been working on it, Zombie Hedgehog, as well as myself. We also have our patented rub them together technique to smooth out your top QR codes. So when you're done with a bed and it's a rough QR code, or that top layer is kind of rough, a lot of really fast printers will make a rough top layer, take them two together and rub those rough layers together, and it smooths it out just in seconds, and it feels nice like butter. Yeah, polymorph, you know. And if you like it rough, then just leave it alone. You can enjoy your roughness. Test, test, test. Yeah, and back up. First rule in any modeling, right? Back up. Save, back up. Like right now, at this point, I'm pretty ready to print. I would go up in the menu, go to the file menu, and I would save the project. So you do a save project as, name it. I would name it like Moco made MakerChip. Save the project. So now I have everything lined up and looks pretty. We're gonna slice it, and I would be able to go ahead and test print. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I don't think so. I think we would be ready to test print right now. And once that test print came back, I'd open my project, everything is still saved, and then I would just right click and clone it. And how many do we want? I would just say, I like even numbers, right? So I could do 15. Let's see, actually, what looks best? Let's see.
15 would mean that you have 16 on the bed.
That's true. But what would look best? I think it was 9 for a nice little sample print. But let's just go do 15. So we have 15 now. I like to hit a range just to see if it's going to do anything prettier for me, and there it is. And that's what we would slice, and we'd send that off to the printer, and we'd get a perfect print. And you're already 16 down. You're going to need 500 of these. So change the colors frequently, make different colors. If you're like Joe Mike, you're going to make a rare set, uncirculated set, a small set of whatever he considers rare. And you could have rare and you can have the common, and just pass those out and have fun. So do we have any questions? Did I skip over anything? Did I go too fast? What could have I forgotten on here? Oh, I know. let's select them all again. I want to go back to just one. So I selected them all and then I unselected one. I'm going to center that. Let's say I want to make a change here. Or let's say you made a mistake in the order of where you're putting things, because you notice you can move these layers, you know, and some of the moves won't make a difference. Other moves make a huge difference. I just lost the entire MakerChip logo because I moved it up here. So if you'll notice, it's in reverse order. QR code doesn't matter so much because that's on the top. But we have the decoration, we have the main chip, and then we have this MakerChip, and that's the last thing. So it's covered up by these layers. So I really need it at least below the main chip layer so you can see it on top of the main chip. If I make a mistake and I want to change any of these parts out, I could go in here and let's say the QR code is wrong or I want to update it. I could simply highlight this and hit delete. Or if we're in the prepare menu, we can go ahead and change this back into parts right here. So we could split it back up into parts. And now we've split, oh, this is the QR code. We didn't want to do that.
Uh-oh. And Fat Boy says I'm having issues getting QR codes to print decently. One thing would be to use this profile. This profile is extremely helpful.
Yeah, the profile really helps with your top layer. And you need to slow down that top layer. Here's an example of some of the speeds. Now this is going to print off to a bamboo, so these do seem fast speeds anyway. But this is at 80 millimeters a second for this top layer. But because there's all these edges, it also has to do with your flow and reducing the flow. And we've done that in the PLA profiles. So we look at a PLA profile, not only do we do a flow ratio of 0.94, that's a lot lower than what the default I think is 0.98 on a lot of these filaments or generics. Also the volumetric speeds, 12. So it's going to reduce the speed as well as the flow, and especially on top layers, that really helps. And it gets you a very clean and smoother top layer. But it also could be your QR code. Because if you have too complex of a QR code, like this is pushing it, these little dots, I know this printer can do that. I would have issues on my old Ender doing this, or even that Prusa Mini that I have to print just these little dots. It could have some issues. You really have to slow it down. And that usually helps, at least on the speed of the top layer. Same goes for the first layer. Like this is not that detailed. These are thick lines, no problem. I have done some which are a single line, even single line text. And I've slowed it down to like, I think as low as 15 or 20 millimeters a second. And I've used like nano polymer on the bed for really details like that, face down details. And that can help get that first line down clean. Another thing to look at in a filament profile is the nozzle temperature on your initial layer. This is kind of a newer thing that I'm doing here, and I think it was Pete over on Polymaker Discord. He prints his face down light boxes, and he does a lower temperature on the first layer to reduce the amount of like stringing he's getting or little blobs down there and things like that. Yeah, Steve builds, you know those Hex Lines, right? So I did one for Steve builds with his hex tray, and they were super fine, still with a 0.4 nozzle. You know, the width is another thing that I've changed under the quality settings to do those fine lines. And if you look here, top surface, tricky. Initial layer width, that's normally 5. I dropped that down to all the other default layer widths. But this top surface, little trick, 0.35. You know what that actually does? It's almost like you're ironing. It's a similar process like ironing, but by changing this, it's almost like default ironing. And it for helps people who reducing the flow.
And Kevin, for people who may be new to Bamboo Slicer and things like that, can we talk about reducing waste when you're printing something in multicolor?
You know, I have a really weird, I have a whole different outlook on waste than I think most people. You know, I'm sorry. I had Enders. I have this Prusa Mini, but I started with Enders, and my waste was failed prints. I would print something, hour-long prints, and suddenly, boom, it fails or it has an issue, layer shift, you never know, whatever. And those things were tuned in. I got really good prints, as good as these bamboos, but man, did I waste a lot of projects. Like my bin was not just little scraps of poop. These are big wasted projects, big fails, and I went through a lot of filament with big failures. When it comes to the amount of waste on color swap, it does look like a lot, but a lot of it's air, and it's like popcorn light, and I don't care. I have 2-3 bags. I don't do a ton of multicolor. This is a lot of multicolor for me doing these chips. There's very little waste on these chips that are generated. We're only talking about a few layers of multicolors. Then it goes on to 2 colors, you know, on these. It's not a lot of waste. You can, I would still use a purge, you know, a purge block, you know, with these, because then you get a nice line right after it's changing colors. You can reduce the amount of waste by going to your flushing volumes here in this slicer and reducing this multiplier. A lot of people go to 0.7. And once you reduce that and recalculate, it'll change the amount of waste in the, you know, between color swaps. So you can change that and it'll change the amount of waste, but I don't know, the poop waste does not bother me. And I've done some really long multicolor prints. I just don't have a ton of waste compared to the failures, and I'm just getting a lot less failures with these bamboos. They are so reliable. It's great.
We have a question / suggestion from Polymorph.
That. Okay.
And that is, any tips for non-bamboo printers?
To raise the decorator, what? And logo from the top. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, so I think maybe I should work on maybe a color swap version that's not face down and not for AMS MMU. Just a traditional color swap at layer height. But yes, I would say you don't need many layers between different colors. So if I was going to take this, I wonder if I can do it here in the slicer. Let me just flip this over. I mean, I think I can, right? So if I go to the object view and I grab Moco Made's logo, we're going to bring that up. So let's just say it's going to print this way now. We're going to have the logo on top, and we're going to bring it up. I'm not going to even measure. Normally, I would say at least a millimeter, you know, just have a little bit. But if we look closely, that's a good edge, right? We would have the center at that height, or we could probably go a little less and then bring the decoration. So now if I go to the decoration, we're not going to move the decoration because that's integral to the sides and everything else. I wonder, I might have to, yeah, see, it's going to be a little different just doing the decoration. But if we raise the height of the decoration, are we still on the build plate? Yes, we are. That changes a lot, because then you're gonna, yeah, see, it's not the greatest in the slicer.
Says that he usually does 0.6 layer difference on color swaps to get 3 layers at 0.2.
Yeah, the 0.2 nozzle. That's smart. Yeah, 3 layers should block out any other color. Like we've all learned what transmissive distance is with HueForge, things like that.
Yes.
So having a few layers will block out the, you know, other colors. So our black will be black and it's not going to be gray on top of white, right? So yeah, I don't think, is there a way that I can make this decoration level again? I don't know. Let's see what happens here.
Or you might have to work with just using 2 colors. Maybe just using 2 colors would be an easier thing too.
No, I mean, you could do this. We just want it flat on the bottom. And I think I have to remove this as a part and drop it back down to the bed. So in advance, you would know you're doing it as a color swap. So I would just start over, and this would be the circle on the bed. And then you'd have this decoration a little thicker. And like Fix'em Dude said, 0.6 is probably good. I mean, I used to make it, well, it depends. I guess big coasters and things like that's a lot different.
So Girl on the Rocks says, I've
Yeah.
seen ones that are 2 pieces in spin. I wonder if you could make one that's 2 different colored pieces that snap together. We do have a couple variants, and after this, we will show like 3D Printies variant. And yeah, the world is your oyster with the MakerChip. I would always suggest that you keep the size the same, and we'll show you why after this. But it's mostly because of the different holders and accessories. And also, you avoid the same problem that we had with Maker coins, in that they were all different sizes and there was no way to store them in a standardized way. No neat way to do it. So we're going to show you that in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of it, it's all kind of standardized size, so people will be able to share them and they can display them, and people can make, you know, whatever they want designs and release their own designs for displays or whatever, and they all just kind of fit, you know. The idea, I'm sure, will evolve. Let's be real. This has only been a few months, right? When did I start doing this? February? January? I don't know. So yeah, when it comes to the color swaps, that would be the easiest way. Bring it in. Once you start bringing in, raising the height and just having a little gap of colors between them. But that's what you're doing, layer height color swap. I mean, did you need me to show you how you do it in the slicer? Like how you do changes of colors? I think Polymorph, you did that already, right? So I think you know how to do that in your slicer. Oh yeah, Gulsifer, you'll see it. There's going to be a VOD, so you'll be able to see the image conversion and so forth. I tried to use some simple tools for that. So here, we have our first MakerChip. And
all right.
what if we wanted to use some of those other designs? Remember, it did come with 9.
Yes.
How do you think we should do that? I can bring in and just import geometry only. That means it's just going to bring in all the shapes and not change all my profile settings. So let's let it bring that in again. And you can see the one that's in the middle. That's our Moco made. And then we can put those off to the side. Let's put this over here. And let's say we wanted to design another one using the same features here.
Standard. Yeah, let's do like a super standard poker chip. Okay. MakerChip.
Well, standard. I don't know what a standard is. Are you talking about
I think
like
the dashes?
The first one?
The dashes.
Dashes?
Yeah,
okay.
One of the first ones. Yeah.
All right. So let's see. If I go over here, I'll let you tell me which one you like. It's still slicing. All right. Like this one here. I know it's hard to see because it's blue on black.
A nice plain one. Yeah, I think that one's good.
Okay.
And while you do that, I am going to actually, not do it this way. Do the opposite way. I'm going to show off some of the MakerChips that have been done. I'm sort of taking them out one at a time, and also a couple other things. So this is one of Kevin's models that was designed for MakerChips, and this is called the MakerChip Transporter 500. So this is actually something you 3D print. There are these really neat twistable knobs. What do we call them? What do we call these?
Bolts. Those are bolts.
So these are obviously, as you can tell, I printed
like
them
a handle.
Separate. So they're like a handle because when you're filling this with 500 MakerChips, you want to make sure that they that you've got some stability. So you're able to fit, I think it's something like 10 or 12 chips in at a time. And with that, when you're ready to put it in the Polymaker filament box, you just use the handles and slide it through. So this carries 500. I will let you know that at 95% infill, which is what I was using when I printed them at first, this gets very, very heavy. I had this in my carry-on and it was quite heavy. So be aware of that, because I know that there was some discussion about making the MakerChips heavier, adding in weights like nickels and things like that to make them the same weight as a poker chip. But when you're dealing with 500 of these for a show, you want to make sure you maximize the efficiency. So your infill is great.
500 was surprisingly heavy. I was shocked. Yeah. Definitely weighs more than your single spool of filament in that same box.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to show is actually my newest iteration of my MakerChip. So I use the polka dot design, as I call it. And I did make a mistake. As you can see, my QR code is a little uneven. So I'm going to have to go in there and edit that and make it look prettier. But this one was a fun one. I had a lot of fun, and Kevin's going to continue working there. I had a lot of fun with using not only the really fun build plates, but also so PEI, PEO, PEY. Those plates are super fun. I thought I had a command for them. I will link them though. So those are super fun to get really neat effects on the face when you're doing the face down. It can look glassy. It can add some pizzazz. So we'll have links for that in the description. But they're a really fun way to add a little pizzazz. I'll show you a few with those. For example, Royal Nomies that I printed were done with the carbon, sort of the carbon PEY plate. And as you can see, it creates a really neat effect, not only on the surface, but also with the various filaments. The darker filament there is Bamboo Galaxy, which is a really interesting one. So this one is the one with the little triangles all over it. I think they call it the carbon plate. But that's the textured one with the triangles. One that I did with, this was actually with Flash Forge translucent PLA. This one is on my shiny plate, as you can see, and it created a really neat effect. As you can see, it's almost a mirror finish. So that one's really fun, and everything did work out with this. So this one was on just the basic shiny plate. I think this one does have some stars on it, but over time, I will say sometimes the stars do disappear. Our friend TechJeeper did his on again on the super shiny plate, and when you look at it very close, you can see little stars in the reflection. Another example of one that I was really impressed by is K2 Kevin did the Silverback Creations, did his, and look how fine the lines are on that.
Yeah, so those are the lines that I was talking about.
Yeah, and this is with a 0.4 nozzle. So it's making sure you really dial in your profile, and anything is possible. We have all kinds of other MakerChips here that we can show off from the different events. As you can see, people go outside of various design boundaries and things, and they're just a fun way to share all the creators. There you can see on the back even more designs, and use the QR code, or sometimes people they do just write the website on the back, makersmashup.com. You don't necessarily have to have a QR code. It's just that we found a way to do that. Now, what I'm holding up here is a model by K2 Kevin. The original model, I actually have the very first proto. Is this the very first prototype, Kevin?
If it's tight on some of them,
Yes.
then yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was the original version, sort of based on a Connect 4 game system.
Mm-hmm.
But Kevin has created, and the name was inspired by Zach Friedman. This is called the MakerChip Matrix. So we will link that, of course, in the description and everything. But there are various sizes that you can use, and it's a great way to store and display your MakerChips that you're collecting at events. So, of course, the MakerChips have been present so far this year at Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival, at Open Sauce, at the Midwest Rap Rap Festival, and of course there are more maker fairs and events throughout the year, including 3D Printopia at the end of September. There will be Smurf, and we'll see where else they appear. Definitely, if you're having a hangout with local maker friends, it's a great thing to bring. And there you go. So it's a pretty fun way to display them. And like I said, there's different storage methods. There's a full storage box with a really nice tight lid that Kevin has designed that can also be used as a display. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the MakerChip 5000 transporter 5000, which fits in a Polymaker box, and of course can fit up 500.
There you go.
I was can waiting. Fit up to you could have 5,000. Do some math. Do some math. Yes. So you could have 100 of them filled and have 5,000. Is that math? Yes. I'm just gonna say. I'll say sorry. I'll say sorry now.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
You know what? I was just thinking, when we were at Murph, there was people coming up to me and they loved the MakerChip, but then they also thought, hey, I could do my own logo and I can, I do poker night. And they wanted their own poker night, their own logos on the chips and all that. And I'm like, oh yeah, you can. And then also the PEO and really PEO sheets that can give you the rainbow glitter effect, the shiny. Do you have any that you have there? There's some really cool effects. And some people came up and they're just like, what kind of filament is this? And I'm like, oh, that's black.
Yeah, this is actually the back of Polymorphs, which is a smooth back because this was before he had a bamboo. So he did color swaps. As you can see, there's color swaps there. But look at the shine. Look at the sparkle and shine.
Yeah, some give a rainbow effect. And people were just really blown away about PEO sheets. So a lot of us might know these PEO glittery sheets and all that. Mm-hmm. The majority of people out there probably don't. Like they're just not deep into it like we are, or it's just, not common knowledge just yet that you have all these other cool halo sheets, that are available. So when I told them, this is just the bed, then we're like, wow, we should have brought a ton of sheets. These people would have eaten them all up,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I wish one of the vendors had been selling them. Kevin, why don't you bring up your face for the last bit of this? So
where's your face?
Humans can see you.
All right.
Exactly.
Where's your face?
There we go.
Good? So before I finish this, if people were watching the screen, there was a lot of little issues that I kept seeing come up as I was just going ahead and moving. Now let me go back to the prepare. I was just making a copy of this one, putting it over here, changing the colors, doing this and that. There was a couple different issues. The QR code was not in the right order, even after merging it and doing that and then cloning it. One, I had the QR code and the face on the same layer. On the bottom, so it wasn't flipped over. So a lot of goofy things happen, but you can see it doesn't take much to fix that, right? And then you can see that we can go ahead and slice it and we are ready to go. Even though they are using the same, really only 3 colors. I didn't use this yellow. It's really only 3 colors. They're totally different. And then if you wanted to do like, this is how I did it and got ready for like Murph and Rocky Mountain, I would clone this and do, let's say, 8 of them. So clone it 7 times. And then I would grab this one and let's go ahead and clone that, another 8 of them.
And we've discussed this many times. You can print a whole sheet of something and have one failure overnight ruin your entire print. So it is better to try to do like that amount. And if you and stick around for the first couple of layers too. In bamboo slicer, you can cancel objects. So for example, if one of those for some reason fails, that's but
yeah.
Some people max out and think that maxing out their print makes it more efficient. Not necessarily, especially if you're not.
I mean, I've done it.
I've done it,
especially when I know it's going to work, and I usually put down some nano polymer. Like I cheat it, right? Just make sure that I have some stick in case there is an issue. That stuff works so good. It's better than any of the glues I've ever tried, and it doesn't leave residue. It's really nice.
Yes. And
not sponsored.
The other thing that you want to do is make sure that your build plate is nice and clean. That is with soapy water and as well. Basically Dawn power wash and a clean dry cloth to dry it off. Wipe it down with alcohol, and then use something like nano if you want to have super adhesion. Especially with those fancy plates, you want to make sure that everything works out really well. So
yeah, you want those clean. And I'm really I keep it clean. Like I have plates that I've had for a year and they still look really new. Just because I clean them, and I use isopropyl between each one. Even if I'm not using glue or anything, I just kind of wipe it down with a little isopropyl on a pad.
But if you're doing the fancy ones,
foundation, right?
But if you're doing the fancy ones, yes, be careful with any adhesives, and especially glue stick. You don't want that because that's really difficult to get off in post production.
It can be. I mean, I like the purple glue sticks. They usually go clear. Sometimes they leave a haze, but you can kind of heat that. Just use a torch or a dryer.
Yeah, but why add more complication?
Yeah, but if that's what you got, purple glue sticks are pretty cheap. They do work, but they get gummy and you lose fine details, you could lose stuff. But I still like it.
So Kev, talk a little bit about your display and what you did for Murph this year.
Well, you do see the Matrix Connect 4s. Those were fun, and I was shocked to see so many people coming around giving me their MakerChip. That was awesome. I had no idea that was going to be a thing at this show, but there was a lot of MakerChips out there, so I was able to add a bunch. There are some duplicates for sure. And some very rare ones, from what I hear.
Mike.
Joe Mike. And my Maker bricks were there. There's the transporter I brought them in. I was initially going to just dump these out into a bowl, but I left them in the transporter so it was more organized, and it worked out fine. So even as a display for people to take, that worked good. And I can tell just by the number of mints that are left, that this is probably not day 3. This is probably Saturday,
Yeah. And also
because
the scrapers.
I have a lot of chips are gone. Oh yeah, and I still had scrapers. That's for sure Saturday. But look how many chips were gone in like a day. So many people were grabbing them left and right, and they just love the, everything about them. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. And I used 3D printing panels for my display. Yes. And that was really cool. There's a little learning curve. You'll get used to it. You got to think ahead on your design and how it's going to all fit together using the minimum amount of panels and connectors. But once you get there, it's pretty sweet. And I broke it down to flat in like no time. I did bring it somewhat pre-assembled, but I don't know. It can be something to set up. I think nesting boxes and the flattening hinged ones might be a fun one for a next show if I ever do that again.
And then, of course, Built Over Bot made the MakerChip collector. So that meant that as you were going along during the event, this could have a carabiner on it, and they just drop in place. I can't remember how many can fit in
They are
here.
magic. He's magical because every time you drop it, it lands perfectly flat, no matter what.
It does. Yep.
You don't get any standing on edge. Like, what magic is he doing inside this thing? I looked at it. There's some magic going on in there. Maybe not. They all lay flat. It was so good. Yeah, people really like that. So I could see that being a thing, walking around with your collectors. That's pretty funny.
I fixed my QR code. And
oh, nice.
Yes, and then I also made
TechJeeper made a shooter.
Yes, it's a shooter too.
Oh, that looks nice. See, I really like it on black.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very nice that way. The contrast is nice. But there are some really creative chips that have all different designs. So
true.
When the chips are down, Kevin just prints more. Says Fix 'em, dude.
Ooh, 3D printing panels with a MakerChip Matrix hybrid win. Right?
That is, I believe, something that has
already talk about that.
Yes, that is being imagined.
Yes, I totally thought about that. And how cool would it be to have like a whole system around your display of your chips or something, or a system where you drop a chip in way up here and then like plinko and then drop into your collector. I mean, do it, please.
Yeah, I think almost everything has a remix option, or work with what you have. Another fun thing is, of course, once you've made a MakerChip, you can, of course, I actually kept it at the same. This is still 3 millimeters. Is that correct? Is that the right?
Yeah, so that's thin.
Yeah.
So
I kept it thin, but of course, Kevin celebrated a birthday this week. Belated happy birthday. And so I decided to gigantify his chip. It actually turned out really, really nice. And so this is something that you can use for trade shows and for events and stuff, because it's very easy to scan this QR code, compared to just scanning.
Is that gigantify? Like, did you have to use channel points to do that, or bits?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So so super fun. And this is also, can become an emote if you're a Twitch streamer, for example. It's a fun base.
Maker Frisbee or self-defense. So I think Fix 'em Dude is thinking a shield.
Yes. I have a giant Moco logo here, as you can see. And this one does not have a QR code because it's not a MakerChip, but so this is, just something fun you can do. The possibilities are endless with 3D printing. We have very much learned.
I have no doubt there has been someone who did not ask a question that really wants to.
Yes.
And if you do ask, I bet you help somebody else, because I know I'm gonna still get questions. I know it. It takes time. It's not gonna happen instantly. I've done a lot of these, and I've gotten better and quicker. Like, I can really whip together one of these chips pretty quick. I did 2 totally different designs today, and that person is probably in chat. He probably knows what they are. I whipped them up and just done. Like, I've gotten pretty good at it. I know other people that are doing like the same process every day. Like Pete and the light boxes. Boy, what he can do so quick. It's amazing.
Yes.
So you will get better if you're doing it. And, if you do have questions, you can hit me up.
I definitely had a question for you yesterday, because my original MakerChip was pezliz, and I had to go into the slicer when I was painting either the pez or the liz to make it a different color. So I did ask, and how would, for something like this, a nice, fairly simple logo, how would I make it, instead of painting, how would I make it 2 different colors?
All right. So if you brought that in as an STL, we see that it's 6 characters. So we could, in the prepare menu, like of Bamboo Studio, you could separate it into objects or parts. It would probably show up as parts because it's one object. And if you did that, then suddenly over here, you would have 6 pezliz logo, and it would be all the letters.
Okay.
You could then combine 3 letters together, combine the other 3, have 2 separate, you know, kind of objects that then you can just select the colors and do that. I would prefer bring it into something like Tinkercad, Fusion, or whatever. Just bring in the STL and cut it in half and separate the 2 parts. Actually, you could probably, can you cut it in half? No, because it's not an object, right? Would you be able to cut it in the slicer? See, I'd like to try that.
Oh, that would be fun.
Did you cut, like, I think it has to cut objects. It can't just cut the air, can it? Maybe it can.
Know.
I don't know. That I've not done that. I would bring it in the slicer and just separate the Pez and the Liz and have them in 2 separate objects and bring them in. That's what I would do. But to do it without using any CAD and keeping it in the slicer, that's another thing. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. Like, wouldn't it be cool if there was just a website you could just put in your thing and pick the decoration and output a chip? Or
so
a website
Marco
that
Big
can do
Dog,
it for anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marco Big Dog is asking a question, and he said, can you do this on a monocolor printer? Now, it depends on what printer you're talking about, and what you want to accomplish. I'm trying to see where I put Polymorph's chip.
Yeah.
With the color
so
swap.
That is what Polymorph did with the color at layer height, you know, layer height color swaps. So yes, you can do it on a single color printer and do color swaps. And basically that's done in your slicer at a layer height. So you can see on the one that she's holding there, he started with what looks like black. And then is that green? Changed to green?
No, that's gold.
Oh, it's gold? Sorry. So he changed to gold. And so you have, I think that's only 2 colors, right?
Yes.
Is there any other color in there? Okay. So at a certain layer height, he changed to gold. So he basically put his logo and then the decoration on the top. And if he wanted another color, he would have to bring, let's say, the paw or the decoration higher than the other object. So after that layer is done, then you're switching. Yes, just like with that. So yeah, you could do it. And if you just wanted it one color, that would just be a circle, right? You wouldn't have any decoration. Yes. It would just be, you know, I mean, you'd still feel it. But if you had to, you could use a Sharpie. Not gonna lie, I've done some of that coloring or painting and, you know, after the fact. Black sparkle,
color swapping,
silk gold.
Color swapping.
Nice.
Yeah, color swapping is a possibility for sure.
I mean, that's all I used to do for all those coasters and everything else we used to design. I would do layer height color swaps, and I have some really intricate coasters that I did. If you want me to show you one, this would make for a cool maker chip, if you ask me. Let me see. Layer height, yes. Here's one I did. Does anyone recognize that?
Ah, I recognize it.
Yeah. So this is layer height color swap. That's a magnet I put on the back. But I started out with like orange on the back side. And then I only changed to the gray on the front. So you're having your printable Prusa meters. And, you know, that's color height layer swap. And there's your Prusa meters. Dulcifer asks, can you hue forge a logo onto a chip? I do not see why
you would not. It's possible to do that, but the thing is, your base of your chip would be very, very thin. It'd be very thin. Keep in mind
you
that
can make it thicker, Liz.
You could make it thicker. Yeah.
You can start with thick blackness in the bottom.
Yeah, that's true.
Or if you had just a chip and you put on, I mean, I don't know how many colors you're talking about there.
That's true. Because this one I started out, I did it pretty
It can be
thick.
done. I never say no, you can't do it. Anything can be done. Anything.
True enough.
Right? Yeah. So if you have the right shape to fit on a chip or on a coaster, on whatever you're doing, then absolutely that top layer, it could just sit there and make a hue forge on the top part of it. And on the other side, you have a face down print of something else. You're only limited by the number of colors you have. I would definitely not do that on manual color swaps. I would say you need an AMS, MMU, because you are talking about a lot of color swaps.
Yeah.
Manual, oh, that pain is real.
Yeah. Been there, done
yes,
that.
It can be done. Yeah, it could totally be done. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, so someone mentioned Fix and Dude Cybertruck.
Stickers.
Yes,
Wait,
stickers
you
are.
can show that now. Is that released? Oh yeah, it is released.
Yes,
released,
this is released to the wild. So this is Fix and Dude.
So cool. So good.
Yeah, Fix and Dude has a Cybertruck. I did it in Polymaker. We did Polymaker Platinum. No, what is this? Chrome, Silk Chrome, and then of course the charcoal gray or charcoal black. I don't know my colors today. Imprinting color and heavens to Betsy.
It looks so good.
But it is very cool.
Go to bed. It is so good. And I think your first one was like pink. And I'm like, Liz, no.
Well, that was just that was a prototype.
Just a test print? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really cool model.
All right.
I think people still love the Cybertruck. I saw one flying by me. It was a full blacked out one. It was intense. Oh yeah. Looking.
You could hardly see it.
What is this monster? Yeah,
so
it was cool.
For people that are watching us live, we are going to do a Polymaker giveaway in a few moments. And for those who are watching us recorded, I want to thank Kevin for joining me for this special imprinting color. If you want to show your whole face, that would be nice.
My whole face not there?
Well, no, face? It's very tiny. It's very tiny. There you go.
There we go.
So thank you, Kevin, for joining us for this imprinting color. And if people want to find you, I will, of course, have all of the links in the description below. But for people that are joining us here, of course, you're on Maker World, you're on Thangs, and you're on Printables, and who knows where else.
My QR code goes to k2designlab.com.
There you go. So,
shoosh.
Thank you so much for joining us for this imprinting color. Thank you to Polymaker for providing us with further inspiration. And stay tuned for a deeper discussion that we're going to have with Polymaker about the MakerChip. I know this is something that is evolving.
Oh yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But this has been Imprinting Color. Thank you, K2 Kevin, for joining me. Again, I am pezliz. Merci beaucoup.
I am K2 Kevin, also known as K2 Kevin.
A biento.
A biento. Bye.